Nama Shrista Manamapi Esajiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyakacha Muripurim Maturim Goshtuvati Radha Kunda Girivaram Oh Radhika Madhuvasam Prabhu Yasya Patita Kripaya Shri Guru Tam Natusmi Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Anandalilamaya Vigrahaya Himabhadivyacchavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Sham Sundar Shikanda Shikar Smaraha Sumurali Manohara Radhikarasakamama Kripanete Supriyacharna King Kurim Kuru Tavaivasmi Najivami Tayavina Jivikyaya Devi Tam Namam Charanantikam. First of all, I have my Sastang Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmadiya Paramaradatam Guru Pada Padma, Nityalila Parvishta Om Vishnupad, Ashtol Tarasatasi, Rupanuga Acharya Varya Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I offer my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev to Srila Prabhupada and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I offer my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. I remember once my Gurudev said, for prachar, for preaching, we don't need any facility. You can just sit down beneath a tree and have kirtan and speak Harikatha. Perhaps you know that Srila Prabhupada, he has coined this phrase, simple living, high thinking. This is a formula for the success of human life. You can see that in nature, everything has its dharma, its purpose. Just like a seed will grow into a tree. So everything has its dharma or its artha. That means its teleological direction, moving towards its goal. So if seeds and plants, they have their telos, their purpose. What about human beings? Before the universe was created, or we can say after the previous annihilation, because there's no first creation. The cycle of creation and destruction of the universe goes on eternally with no beginning and no end. So before the world is created, at that time, Lord Narayan is sleeping. And the Vedas personified approach him and they offer prayers, glorifying him. Just like kings in ancient times. What to speak of ancient Vedic kings, even in Europe, Louis XIV. They did not have an alarm clock, but they had the musicians and singers would come in and sing their glories and they wake up hearing the sound of their own glories. How does Supreme Lord Narayan wake up? To the sound of what? Jaya 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 Jam Ajita Dosha Gribita Gunam Tamasya Datmana Samaviruda Samasta Bagaha Agajagado Kasam Akila Shakta Vabodakati Kvachita Jayatmana Chacharato Nuchare Nigamaha. The Vedas begin to glorify him. Jaya 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 Jam Ajita. O Ajit, unconquerable Lord. Here there's a very profound teaching that the Supreme Lord has a name, Ajita. And this name was spoken before the manifestation of the universe, before there was the Mahatattva, Ahankar, ego, Buddhi, Manas, mind, intelligence, or space, or sound, or earth, or any of the physical elements. Before any elements were manifest, the Supreme Lord had name Ajita. That means that the name of God is eternal. It is not a product of Vikalpa, some arbitrary imposition onto every object in this world has a name. And when people are born, then the parent, from his mind, he selects some arbitrary name. Your name is Vladimir. Your name is Sergei. So the names of persons in this world, they're arbitrarily chosen as the products of the material mind of people. But the name of God existed before there even the element of mind existed. And therefore his name is Vikalpa Rahita. That means it is not a product of arbitrary mental assignment, but it is an eternal reality, non-different from the Lord himself. Every word is so deep. Jaya 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 Jita Dosh Gribita Gunam. You should dispel the faults of the three gunas. Wake up and drive away the faults of the three gunas. God's name is Ajit. Our names are not Ajit. God is Ajit, that means unconquerable. But here in this world, we are Prakriti Kavalitam. We have been conquered. We have been swallowed by the material energy. God is Ajit, he cannot be conquered, and we are Ajit. We cannot conquer. We are conquered ourselves. He can conquer Maya, but we are conquered by Maya. Raise your hand if you are not growing old. Raise your hand if you're not becoming sick. Raise your hand if you're not going to die. There. It's proven there is no Ajitas here. Ajit always wins, and those who are not Ajit, they always lose. So in the material world, everyone is a loser because they will lose everything. The only way we can become a winner is if we take the side of Ajit. The person who cannot be if there's someone on your team who cannot lose, then your team will win. So the Vedas are saying, oh my Lord, you should please wake up and manifest your energies. That means manifest all the universes, manifest all the jivas. Now there's no fault in God himself. So the faults are the faults of the jivas due to being covered and conditioned by Maya. So the Vedas are saying manifest the universe and then remove the faults of the jivas who are covered by Maya so they can come to your eternal abode. So from this very first prayer of the Vedas personified, we can know what is our telos. Just as the seed, its purpose is to grow into a tree, so in the same way, the universe is manifested to give us, the souls, a chance to become free from our covering and conditioning of material energy and be united in a loving relationship with God. So this is our purpose. There is no other purpose. If you want to suggest another purpose, then whatever you suggest, it will be temporary. It will be some purpose that leads to nothing in the end. So that cannot be a purpose. The only purpose is the goal which brings us to an eternal happiness, swasti. Lord Rishabdev instructed his sons, headed by Bharat Maharaj. Neham deha deha bhajam riloke kastam kaham ahati vidbujam ye tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam yasmid sudyed brahma saukyam tvanantam. Persons who have taken birth in the human form of life should not endeavor just to get some stimulation of their senses, because in principle that is non-different from the pig who is looking here and there to eat some stool. If the pig is wandering here and there looking, oh, where is a very delicious, fresh and hot stool? And you are thinking, I'm going to the 3-star Michelin restaurant to eat the very best caviar. What is the difference in principle? It is only uncontrolled senses searching for their objects to try to get some temporary stimulation. So Rishabdev is saying, Tapo dibyam bhutraka yena sattvam, O my sons, the human life is meant for tapo dibyam. That means divine austerity. To accept some difficulty and some sacrifice by which we can become purified of material consciousness. So yet Brahma Saukyam Tanam Tam, and becoming purified, then we can experience the Brahmasuk, transcendental joy, which is Ananta. It goes on forever. So in Vedic culture, whole society is organized that everyone can be moving towards their goal. Neha yat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirtha pada sevaya jivan api mrito hi saha. It is said, if a person, his karma, his daily duties are not performed for the sake of dharma, that means coming to the level of sattva gun, developing gyan. Gyan here means the atma deha vivek, the discrimination between matter and spirit, between the body and the soul. It's not something that you can just learn theoretically. You are not this body. Yes, I am not this body. But still the experience of feeling like I am this body is persisting. So even though the person can repeat what he heard, but really did not learn the subject. So only when a person becomes free from tamagun and rajagun and comes to a higher level of sattvagun, then naturally vivek, the power of discrimination arises. And then he has gyan, knowledge, the discrimination between matter and spirit. So that knowledge, that discrimination can only arise in a person who's performing his duties in this world without attachment to the result. If a person is always working thinking, I'm doing this because on the end of the stick there's a carrot. You know how to make a donkey keep running? You have to put the carrot on the stick in front of the donkey and he'll keep chasing it. So if someone is always working all the time with the eye on the carrot, oh, I will enjoy this carrot. That means I will get money, I will get money. Then their mind remains in Rajagun always. That person becomes bound up in this world. Yagyartat kamanonyatra loko yam kama bandhana taratam karma kontaya mukta sangha samarchara. Krishna said, hey Arjun, if you do your work as a sacrifice to me, then you can never be bound by karma. But if you are working, always thinking about what you get for yourself, then you must be bound up in this by karma in this world. So when a person works without attachment to the fruit of work and offering everything to Krishna, then his gyan, his knowledge, his discrimination comes. So na viragaya kalpate. Now if the person gets knowledge, but they don't become detached from this world, or if a person becomes detached, but now he's detached, he does not use all of his senses in hearing, chanting and remembering, serving Krishna, then jivan api mrito hi saha. That person, even though he's alive, is considered to be dead. Why? Because he's not on the path of progress. He's not Aryan, a noble person who is living for a glorious goal. So just to summarize the 3 stages, neha yat karma dharmaya. If one's work is not for the sake of becoming purified and attaining knowledge, if one's knowledge is not for the sake of becoming detached from worldly activities, and if one's detachment is not for the sake of engaging fully directly in Krishna's service, then that person, though he appears to be living, he's like a dead body because he's not progressing towards his goal. So in this verse, there are 4 levels of progress. One's karma, his work, should be turned into dharma. His dharma should be turned into vairagya. The vairagya should be turned into bhakti. And then he'll attain Krishna perfection. Sadhan bhakti will become prema bhakti, bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. Now, in modern society, we see that generally the people, they don't even do the first transformation. They don't make their work into the Dharma, into religious practice for the purification and upliftment. Mainly we see people are working so that they can get something which will make them become more degraded, more attached. And mainly modern society is very complex. So people are trapped in various situations where they're just working, only to be in a debt. And so by all of these activities, the purpose of human life becomes frustrated. So Srila Prabhupada said, simple living, high thinking. It is better if we can simplify our life. So our mind becomes free to turn towards the higher things. So we see many examples in the Shastra. Perhaps you know that Udalak, his name is also Aruni, Udalak Aruni, he was a disciple of Daumya Rishi, and he was serving his guru in taking care of the farm. And when the water was, they make a high boundary of soil around the rice field, but it was raining and the boundary was broken and the water was flooding out from the rice field. So his guru had told him, "Oh, go and fix the boundary, so otherwise the rice field will be ruined." So he went there and he was trying to block it, but the water kept washing away the soil. So the only way he could find to block it was to block it with his own body. So then he lay down in the mud and he blocked the hole in the dam. It rained the whole night and the field became full. In the morning, his guru Daumya Rishi woke up and spoke to the other his disciples. "Oh, have you seen Aruni? Where is Aruni?" So then they set off to look for him, and they found him freezing cold and lying in the mud. "Hey, Aruni, what are you doing here?" Said, "Oh, Gurudev, I could not stop the water from coming out of the field. This was the only way I could do it." So he told the other disciples to fill and block the hole, and he took Aruni out of the ground, and he blessed him. "Oh, you have undergone so much difficulty just to serve me." Tasyaiti katita hyata prakashante mahatmana. And he blessed him that all the meaning of the Vedas would manifest in his heart. Udala Karuni had a godbrother also named Upamanyu. He had to take care of the cows on his guru's farm. And by his sincere service, he received the blessing of his guru. He also became perfect. Perhaps you know Satyakam Jabala. He was the disciple of Gautam Rishi. And he used to take care of cows on his guru's farm. Perhaps you know Krishna. When he was a boy, he had to leave the village and go to Avantipur, Ujjain. There he stayed in the ashram of his guru there, Sandipani Muni. One day, Guru Mata, his guru's wife, told him, "Oh, can you collect some wood from the forest?" And Krishna, being just a boy, about 12 years old, went into the forest to collect wood for his Guru Mata. And there was a very heavy downpour of rain, and the area was flooded and he couldn't return. And the whole night he stood underneath a tree with Sudama, his godbrother, and holding the bundles of wood on their heads the whole night, waiting for the rain to stop. So when Sandipani Muni found Krishna in the forest, he was very pleased with his humble service, and he blessed Krishna. That whatever words he will say, there'll be Amrita, immortal nectar. So even 5,000 years later, we're repeating Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because he was serving his Gurudev. So we see so many examples. There are many more examples in Shastra like this. So this is simple living. And high thinking, when you live in a simple way and doing simple service, then your mind is free to think in every moment, to deliberate on the meaning of the Shastra. Tat Srinvan Supatan Vicharna Paro Bhaktya Vimuchandra. First, one should hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, then one should study it and recite it, and then one should do vichar, meditate. How can you meditate on the message, the teachings of Gita and Bhagavatam, if your mind is always thinking about worldly things in complex situations? In the Upanishads, it is said, oh, do you know that one thing, knowing which you know everything? Do you know it? If you can know one thing, just by knowing this one thing, everything else will be known. So the answer is that just as a person who knows gold automatically knows gold earrings, gold necklaces, gold bangles, gold rings, a person who knows clay knows all clay pots and plates. So one who knows Brahma, Supreme Truth, knows everything, because all existence is the energy of that Brahma. The instruction is simple, but to deeply absorb it and be aware of it and seeing, oh, Supreme Lord is everything and everywhere. This is another experience. So if a person has very complicated and demanding material life, they can never stop to think very profoundly with a purified mind and realize this Siddhanta of the Vedas. So it's very important to hear very good philosophy of the Vedas, very beautiful Harikatha, and engage in some service. And to always remember, thinking. And gradually, as the heart is purified, we can realize the message of the Vedas. There was one young man in Bengal. His name was Dukhi. Dukhi means sad. But when he came to his Gurudev and he was initiated, he became Krishnadas. So then he was not Dukhi anymore. If we take shelter of Guru and serve Gurudev and hear Harikatha, then all suffering goes away. So his Guru sent him to Vrindavan to study under Srila Jiva Goswami. And Srila Jiva Goswami, perhaps you know, he's considered not only in India, but also Western scholars have recognized him. Some have recognized him as the greatest philosopher ever. The Mahabharata is 100,000 verses, but Srila Jiva Goswami has written 400,000 verses of philosophy and poetry. So when Krishnadas came and took shelter of his Shiksha Guru, Srila Jiva Goswami, he was studying under him. Srila Jiva Goswami also gave him some seva, service to perform. He gave him a broom. He said, take this broom and you should sweep in seva kunj. So he did not say, hey, I came here to study philosophy. Why are you telling me to sweep? No. He was crying in ecstasy. When you sweep, the dust comes in the air. You have to sprinkle water. He was sprinkling his tears while he was sweeping. He used to talk to his broom with so much love. He used to hold the broom to his heart and say, oh, broom, by your mercy, I will attain the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. And he was sweeping. One day when he was sweeping there, he found a golden ankle bell. So he took it and he went to his Gurudev. He said, I found this. Srila Jiva Goswami Pad said, you should keep it, but you don't give it to anyone except for the owner who has lost it. You can return it to the owner. So one day he was sweeping in Sevakunj and two beautiful gopis came there. Oh, Baba, have you found an ankle bell? Yes. To whom does it belong? It belongs to our Saki. Please return it to us. No, I'll not give it to you. I'll only give it to the owner. Who were those gopis? Lalita and Vishaka. They said, well, Baba, why do you want to look at a girl? He said, I don't. That is not what I'm saying. I will only return it to the owner. You should bring the owner here, and I'll return it. Then they said, oh, but the owner, she never looks at any other man except her husband. She is very chaste and will not allow you to see her. We'll bring her, but you have to wear blindfold. So then he agreed. So they blindfolded him, and then he was listening and he could hear that those two gopis were bringing their Saki there. And when he could understand that she was in front of him, then he bent down to give the ankle. Then it was Srimati Radhika herself. Very mercifully, she removed his blindfold and opened his eyes, and he had the darshan of Srimati Radhika. And she took the ankle belt and touched his forehead there and made an impression on his forehead, permanent tilak. and his life became perfect, receiving the blessings of Radhika. So afterwards, his guru, Shiksha Guru, Srila Jiva Goswami, gave him the name Shamananda Pandit. Here means who gives Ananda to Shama, Radhika. So we see the example of Krishnadas or Shamananda Pandit sweeping very simply with the broom every day, holding the broom to the heart. Oh, broom, you are so merciful to me. You will take me to the service of Radha and Krishna. So in the same way, when you are digging here on the farm, you can take your shovel and say, oh, shovel, you are very merciful to me. So just now, we'll have the Ora et Labora working and praying. There are so many services to do here on the farm. One, you have to volunteer. You don't have to, but if you volunteer, you can do it. Everything is voluntary. Oh, in the raspberries and strawberries, so many weeds are growing. So they'll disturb the crop. So these weeds have to be removed. It is exactly like growing our Bhakti Lata beach. Gradually, the seed of our devotion is growing, but it can become choked by the weeds of different desires. So this is a good opportunity to pull out all the weeds of anarthas. Some devotees will have to help making the irrigation system. Some devotees will build the fire for the evening. What other services do we have?
To plant.
Oh yes, and planting also. There's so many plants that need to be planted. So you can take instruction from Ambarish Prabhu and from Vital Prabhu.
Dhananjay.
And where is Dhananjay? You can, if you're not already expert in these things, they will train you and teach you exactly how to plant, how to set up irrigation, and so on. And how to pull out the weeds and not pull out the actual plant that we're trying to grow. They'll teach you all of these things. So in Bangla it says, Mukhe naam hate kaam. Means, may I work with my hands and chant the holy name with my mouth. So this is perfection. The ordinary person thinks perfection is trying to build something great for enjoyment in this physical plane. But actually, by working for nothing, that means working not to get any benefit, then actually you are doing something more productive than any worldly person. Do you feel peaceful here?
Because of you.
Well, the forest is definitely sattvic. So it's sattvic supports meditation. But when the person is working without trying to get any worldly results and they focus on attaining their goal of life, then gradually, all the chittavrittis, the oscillations of the mind, they slow down, and the mind becomes very steady and peaceful. And in the Ekar Chitta, the one-pointed, steady Chitta, when the devotee chants the holy name, then the reflection of the beautiful Swarup of Krishna is caught there. And then one becomes situated in Sambandha Gyan. Like Vyasadeva. Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranite Malay. Apasat Purusham Punam Mayam Chatad Apasrayam. Srila Vyasadeva, he went into Samadhi, the trance of Bhakti Yoga, and he saw, oh, here is Maya, and here is Krishna. And the jivas are some going to Krishna and some are going to Maya. Anato pasamam sakshad bhakti yoga madoksaji lokasya janato vidvam chakri sattva sanghitam. And he saw that the living entities who are lost in Maya, by hearing, chanting, and remembering about Krishna, these conscious beings can be transferred from the plane of material energy into Sri Krishna's spiritual plane, Goloka Vrindavan. So he saw this, and that's why he manifested Srimad Bhagavatam to accomplish that transformation, that transference. So you don't have to escape this world and go somewhere else. Krishna, Goloka Vrindavan, they are Sarvavyapi, they are Upavedi. So we don't have to escape this place and go somewhere else. Only we have to become free from the influence of Maya. From avidya, that is Rajas and Tamas, to Vidya, Sattva. And from Sattva to Vishuddha Sattva. When can you do it? Right, today. Some persons are thinking, oh, it must take a very, very long time. But Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days left to live. And he surrendered fully, hearing, chanting and remembering, and became perfect. Katanga Maharaj had only 12 minutes and he fully surrendered and became Krishna conscious. He had only 12 minutes left to live in his life. So it is not a question of how long we are practicing, but how deep is our practice. Just like if you want to dig a pond here, if you dig only 2 meters, then you find, oh, no water. So then you go somewhere else and again dig 2 meters. Again, you can go everywhere digging for a long time. But if you dig in one place and go down 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters, then on the first day you'll find water. So spiritual life is like this. We should try to go right now, go very deeply, fully surrender with great humility, completely depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And we can go through the Anartha-nivritti and realize something. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare
Sadhu.
The only way to realize Krishna is to be purified by seva. When a person is absorbed in service, then eka anga sadi keho sadi baho anga nishta hoila upajay premarataranga. Some persons are fixed in one anga of bhakti, some are fixed in multiple angas of bhakti. Until a person has the darshan of Krishna, they cannot imagine what is spiritual. Because a person who has only material experience, whatever he tries to imagine is just another variety of material experience. So a person, he can think, oh, this is material and this is spiritual. But actually his idea of spiritual is just another variety of his material experience. Only when the chitta is purified and it becomes steady, ekagrata, one point, and then one has darshan of Krishna Swarup. Only after that the person has the idea that there's something spiritual, what is spiritual, that actually corresponds to the spiritual realm, not the material realm. So for most persons, their abhiman, identity is merged with the ego and mind, intelligence. When sattva gun becomes more prominent, then they can have experience that what it means, I am Sakshi, witness. I am not my thoughts, but I am witnessing my thoughts from the vantage point of the soul. So even that person cannot realize Krishna yet. Because as long as he's Sakshitva, he is the witnesshood, he's turned towards the material energy. There's no realization of Krishna. But it's a step, he's moving in a direction. So then, when the person is no longer identifying with the body and mind, and he turns his attention fully towards a holy name, then realization will come, otherwise not. So everything that we do, we have to do with this very deliberate intention of turning our consciousness away from the absorption in material energy and towards Krishna. Right. Hatika Mukena. Lord Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhapakidari Shri Srila Ki Jai Srila Pristong Vishtupare Shtu Smar Rupana Vitarve Shri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Raj Ki Jai Srila Pristong Vishtupare Shtu Rasa Dashma Gauranga Goswami Raj Ki Jai Srila Pristong Vishtupare Shtu Smar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Raj Ki Jai Srila Pristong Vishtupare Shtu Rasa Dashma Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Pristong Vishtupare Shtu Rasa Dashma Bhakti Prakayan Kesha Goswami Raj Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Stansa Thakur Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Mahabhagavashi Goksharas Bhavin Raj Ki Jai Sabdan Goswami Sasan Thakur Bhakti Nod Ki Jai Sri Rupa Nuga Gauri Gurva Ki Jai Jai Sri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Gopal Bhatta Das Sad Goswami Pu Ki Jai Prem Sri Ghosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Brajamanda Ketamanda Gaura Manu Ki Jai Tribhutamang Kari Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Sri Sri Radhagavanda Gopinath Bharamoju Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Tribhutamang Kari Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Nanda Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulasi Devyai Priyai Kesavasacha Krishna Bhakti Padi Devi Satatai Namo Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Puritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Srila Gurudeva ki Jai.
Закройте глаза, приходите
by the Lord in the heart. Yes, you? Do you have a question?
If animals are in Tamagun, how can we say that the forest is sattvic?
In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna gives the instructions to Uddhava. And there he said that if you live in a bar or a brothel where everyone is taking intoxication, the dharmic association of women, then this is in Tamagun. If you live in a city, then generally in a city, everyone is doing fruitive activity. So they are very rajasic, passionate. So it said living in the city is considered to be rajasic because of the association. If you stay in a brothel or a drinking house, then the association there is tamasic. If you live in a city, then the association is rajasic. But if you live in the forest, it's sattvic. Why? Because only the rishis are living in the forest, or you're alone. So it's considered to be sattvic. You cannot say that the animals are in ignorance. So it's in the mode of ignorance. Why? Because you're not doing association with the animals. You don't ask them questions. So because they're animals here and there, but you're not associating with them. So then it's considered to be sattvic. We see that Bharat Maharaj, he associated with the animal and became attached to him. And because of this he fell down. So then Krishna said, okay, living in the forest is sattva gun. But living in a temple, whether the temple is in the forest or in the city or wherever it is, that is nirgun. No gunas at all. So the main thing, the most important thing, is to be in a place where the deity of Krishna is there, or especially Kirtan, Harikata is going on. One thing is that, just for illustration, it is said that Narad Muni in his previous life, he went to the forest to do his sadhana alone. And the Lord gave him darshan just for a moment. And then he disappeared, said, you will not see me again in this life. So, the reason is given that he had the sattvic vanabas, the desire to do bhajan in a sattvic place in the forest. So this pastime is there to teach us, even we should not be attached, oh, I want to live in a beautiful sattvic forest. The exclusive desire, anya vilashta shunyam, bhakti should be devoid of any desire. Once Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he came to one house where he was going to stay. His room was up on a higher floor. And the devotee opened and said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, look, there's a very good view here and very good air. Fresh air comes through, and he opened the shutters. And then he went away. And then when he came back, he saw that Srila Prabhupada had shut it again. So he had no tendency at all to try to enjoy any physical nature. But he's Paramahamsa. For the conditioned souls, it's very difficult for them to cultivate spiritual life if the atmosphere around them is very passionate and rajasic. In Vedic culture, when the boys were small, they would go to Gurukul and live with their guru in any forest or countryside place and do simple services like in the farming, while they're also being educated in Shastra. So if a guru tells you you should come and do some work on the farm, this is the best thing to do. But if he tells you you should be in the middle of the city and preach here, then this is the best thing to do. Then you have to sacrifice and surrender. And you can stay in a very beautiful forest when you get to Goloka Vrindavan. Yes, any other question? Yes, Gauri.
She's saying that on the intellectual level I can understand things, but on the level of heart it's not coming. I don't feel like today you were saying in the class that actually it demands realization to understand that Atma Tattva Vivek, that I'm not this body, I'm the soul. So how to
purification,
feel it, yes, how to come to that level. Because intellectual understanding I have, but don't feel.
So that's what we were speaking about. We cannot have the direct intuitive experience of being transcendental beings without purification. Because of Rajagun, the mode of passion is called avidya vritti. It means the ignorance function. Sattvagun is the vidya vritti. Sattvagun gives vidya, knowledge. But this knowledge is not like a positive knowledge. It's the negation of ignorance. So by Sattvagun you can realize, I am not this body, but you cannot realize positively what you are. That's why bhakti is necessary. But the nature and the taste of bhakti will not come until one has come up to Sattvagun. Where is it written? In Bhagavatam?
Первая строчка.
Тогда
Тогда раджастаму бава
кама.
кама лабда.
Лобха.
Loba
Кама лабха
dayaschaye.
даяшчае.
Чита.
Чита этар анавидхам. Ститам сатвам.
Titam sattve prasiddhati. Okay. So you got the... there are 3 verses in a row here. Nasta praesho badareshu nitum bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavata tumasloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By serving the devotee who's the Bhagavat devotee, Srimad Bhagavatam, book Bhagavat and person Bhagavat, daily, every day. Then what happens? That's nasta praesho badareshu. Inauspicious things. Inauspicious things here means the tendency to commit namaparad. There's a tendency to chant and space out. But by service and association, that tendency will go away. And then Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki, he becomes to the stage of Nishta, steadiness. Why? Because as his mind becomes steady, then he begins to realize the form of Krishna. Tadarajastamo bhavas kamalabhadyasya. Then all the effects of Tamagun, Rajagun, such as lust and greed, they're slowly removed. Actually, to come to Nishta, you already have to have in your behavior, these tamasic and rajas have gone. But there's still some effect, some sanskar in the mind. And so this is removed. Consciousness becomes fixed in the Vishuddha Sattva Swarup of Krishna, not Sattva Gun. Then comes the verse, Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavatat vijnanam mukta sangas jayati.
Yes.
So, you have to apply yourself in practicing sadhana, engaging in service. That's the positive side. And the negative side, you have to give up everything which is unfavorable for the cultivation of bhakti. Because following bhakti is like trying to light a fire. And doing the unfavorable things is like putting water on the fire. So it's not possible to try to light the fire and give water at the same time. So there has to be positive engagement and the negative things have to be neglected. And then slowly, as you'll experience, your mind is becoming more and more steady. And then your attention can come away from the world and turn towards Krishna. That will take some time, but it's not impossible. You can realize Krishna in this life if you follow very sincerely. So be very enthusiastic always.
Yes.
Ambarish Maharaj. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayo vatangsi vaikunta gunanavane. Reminded me of Ambarish Maharaj. All his senses, his mind, his hands, his eyes, his ears, everything was engaged in Krishna's service. Actually, in the commentary on these verses of Ambarish Maharaj, it is said that just like a king sits on the throne and he gives instructions to his ministers. So in the same way, Ambarish Maharaj was like that. So Vaimana Krishna Padaravin, oh mind, remember Krishna. Oh tongue, speak about Krishna. Hands, clean the temple. Oh feet, go on parikrama. Eyes, look at the deity. So you have to be like that. Because in our conditioned states, our senses want to do just material activities. So your soul, sitting like a king on the throne of your heart, has to tell every part of your body, do this, do this, do this. Otherwise, they'll do whatever they want and have a mutiny and the king will lose his position. The human form of life will be lost.